Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Brian from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up, let's dive in.
Welcome to the Security Squawk podcast, your go-to podcast for unraveling the complexities of cybersecurity. I'm your co-host, Brian Horning, joined by my knowledgeable colleagues, Reginald Andre and Randy Bryan. Together, we dive deep into the latest trends, threats, and tactics in the ever-evolving world of cybercrime. So welcome to the video. Welcome to the podcast. However you're consuming this content, we appreciate your support. How are you guys doing today, Randy and Andre?
Doing well. How was your conference last week?
Hey, we missed you. We missed you.
Good. Pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
You guys take pictures together?
We did.
Awesome.
I think we took one, man.
We took more than one.
Twice. Maybe thrice.
So today's episode, we're tackling a bunch of critical topics, guys. One is the alarming rise of data breaches that bypass ransomware altogether, or it's not deployed, and we're just seeing a ton of it. So we want to dive into that a little bit. We're going to explore some recent high-profile cases, including significant breaches affecting landmark insurance and the cunning tactics employed by cybercriminals like the Black Basta ransomware group and what they're kind of up to today and how they're attacking companies. Well, that's not all. We're going to provide updates on previous stories in our following up segment, where we discuss the ongoing fallout from the Henry Schein breach, which was a ransomware attack that occurred over a year ago, and the massive data theft impacting UnitedHealth. They've come out with the statistics on how many patients were impacted there. So we're going to take a look at that in our following up segment. And always remember, we stream live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. We encourage you to engage with us while we're live by hitting us up in the comment section. If we see your question, we will answer it live if it's relevant or on topic. But please comment in the comment section wherever you're consuming this. Share your thoughts. And remember to like our content, share it where you can, subscribe. Doing all those things help other people find this content. It brings awareness, and your participation helps us keep this show ad-free and focus on delivering valuable insight. So we ready to go here, guys?
Let's go.
Let's talk about what's going on in a bunch of different data breaches that we've been brought to our attention. The interesting thing is, it's a twofold interesting thing for me, because it's the confluence of state data breach laws and companies understanding that they have to adhere to them or bad things can happen to them, like fines. Nobody wants to pay a ridiculous fine because they just failed to file some paperwork about a data breach. Nobody's going to be mad at you or come after you for having the data breach, but if you don't report it, that's when the trouble starts, right? So we're starting to see companies become more forthright, even non-publicly traded companies, private companies, come out with the proper data breach reporting. And because of that, we're learning about a lot of data breaches because state attorney generals are requiring it and different states are requiring it. So what's happening is cybercriminals are, as we're seeing, things get reported more. Cybercriminals are getting in the networks more, but they're not deploying ransomware, which means they're accessing critical and sensitive information, but they're not actually deploying ransomware. So we'll talk about like what they're doing, the different things that they could do with your data, but it's a perspective shift for business owners. And that's why we're talking about it on today's show, because that perspective shift is really that business owners can't just look at it as a ransomware problem. they have to look at it as an issue with, hey, I have data that I'm supposed to be keeping from other people getting access to, but other people like cyber criminals are getting access to it. So we're going to highlight a few examples that happened in the last week around this and dive into this a little bit deeper. So the one we found 3 cases where this kind of happened, guys, and they all happened a little bit different in a little bit of a different way. Some the network was accessed and some they just logged into the email, but these are still business email compromises. And yes, if your company email, one of your employees has their email logged into by somebody who shouldn't have logged into it, more than likely your state is going to require you to report that breach. As crazy as it sounds, you can't just kick the person out and change their password and move on with your business and go, thank God, that was a close one. No, that was an actual data breach and you need to report that. Right, guys?
Yep. Depends on where you are and what industry you're in and what state, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah.
So let's dive into there's 3 cases I want to look at. The Chimenetti and Associates, 1 Point Patient Care, and this Teams software, and then this advanced recovery equipment and supplies all suffered breaches in the recent past, within the last couple months, and had to file a data breach report. And because of that filing, we now know about these things. So what was one thing that stood out between those 4 data breaches that we looked into for you guys? I'll start with Andre, and then I'll bounce it over to Randy.
Yeah, so just doing a quick search on Chimenetti and Associates, they specialize in voluntary and employer-paid benefit solutions. So they're dealing with people's information. And what surprised me is the fact that they had a data breach within someone's email, and once, like you just said, once the person was once the bad guy got into that email, they saw all of this treasure trove of information and social security numbers and date of births and according to just a quick Google search, this company does about $12 million in revenue. So I would just think, and I know we can't assume on this show anymore with all the different topics we've done in the last 4 years, but like you would think that if I'm the customer and I have a Gmail email and I'm sending my social to this company, you would have think that they had a process or a policy that would have rejected that email because it had sensitive information. So the poor cybersecurity posture that this company has, which, $12 million is a lot of revenue, you would think some type of investment and some type of planning would have been put in place so that if something like this happens, because we always talk, it's not if, it's when. We know we can do everything we can, but it can still happen. But let's mitigate the risk. Let's put in policies that if you deal with employees' information, the number one thing you should do is make sure that when you don't keep that sensitive stuff on an email.
Yeah. So then those are great points. And then, also before I get to what stood out with me, just the fact that really all 4 of these companies deal with some significant data,
right? And
they have a lot of customers, a lot of patients, and this and that. So there's a lot of data here. And, I say it all the time, but what really stands out to me here is that it's all about the money. So back in the day, we saw more and more than now. We saw more ransomware attacks where sometimes they would release data, sometimes they might delete data, and they made decent money at that. But they're learning that they can make better money by holding your data ransom. And so it's like an extortion. It's like, I've heard over the years, like, you've got your traditional kidnapping where they actually take somebody. Then you've got like an express kidnapping where they take somebody's picture and then make you pay a ransom saying, hey, we could take them if we wanted. This is more like express kidnapping, if you will. They're saying that they're going to release it out to the wild. They're going to say that, so rather than doing the whole ransomware thing, they're going to sell it or whatever unless you pay them money. And honestly, this will not be the last thing most likely that happens. They're going to figure out another way to make money. There'll be a cat and mouse game here where what they're doing eventually, you know, we might stop most of them. They'll figure out something else. They'll figure out a way to keep getting money, which is really what's driving them in the overwhelming majority of the cases, it appears, looking for more money.
Yep, good point. Good analysis there, Randy. So some of the things that stood out for me across the board, you guys will kind of find this interesting too, is, you know, I'll talk about the Chimienti and Associates, or a law firm, with their data breach. And Andre, correct me if I'm wrong, this was one email account that was hacked?
Right.
Right? 632,000 individuals. I don't know what email they got into, but oh my God, like, that many individuals, like, in one email, were impacted. I don't know what's going on there, but the other interesting thing is the timelines with all of these breaches were scarily long. You know, talking about this law firm, the breach was detected on March 22nd, but unauthorized access occurred between March 22nd and March 26th, so only 4 days. But it took them till the middle of October to complete their investigation.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's just fudging the timelines, so they didn't seem like they were violating any data breach reporting laws or anything like that. But something tells me you didn't recognize, like, those. What were you doing from March to October? And you got to 600,000 records in 4 days.
Well, yeah, that's a big mailbox.
I just don't know. It just seems odd to me. But anyway, information compromised in all these events were names, social security numbers, state issue identification, dates of birth, health information, financial account information. That should not be in somebody's email. Like, these are things that companies have to understand, that those types of data points should not be sitting in somebody's inbox in their email. That is not encrypted. That is not protected enough. That is, once I have access to it, I can see everything. You got to I look at email as like something public. Like, if somebody gets access to it, they're going to see a lot of stuff. So I'm mindful of that. And like the other day, we had somebody who hired us to do a risk assessment. They wanted an NDA, and they were sending us NDAs over email, unencrypted. And they were like, "Hey, can you send that back to us?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. As soon as we get it into our secure file transfer system and send it to you securely, because we don't send stuff like this through email, not secure." We also provide them with links so they can download those documents. We don't send them as attachments, because what happens with attachments, right, guys? They sit in your email for ever and ever until that person decides to clean up their email or they delete the mailbox. I know people who have 20 some years of emails sitting in their inbox because they're just, you know, they're one of those people that thinks, like, I'm going to need this one day. They're never going to need it ever again, but they tell themselves a story, and then they end up keeping all this information in a very easily accessible, unsecure technology. Would you disagree with anything I said there?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like from the write-up on this, that's exactly what happened. This was all in one email box, probably their box they did all their intake with. You know, they probably had everybody, like Andre said, you know, sending them all kinds of information from their personal Gmail addresses and who knows where else. And rather than go ahead and actioning on it, they left it in the inbox forever and ever.
So unfortunately, the bad side, or the flip side, of these data breach reporting laws is it's now public record. And a company like this, which is a 25-person law firm that does about $12 million in annual revenue, is now going to be subject to a class action lawsuit, because there's going to be other attorneys, other law firms out there who specialize in data breach activities and filing class action lawsuits on behalf of a group of people who now the 632,000 clients or people who were involved in these data breaches. Again, these could be clients of this law firm. It could be clients of opposing law firms where they just received information as part of a case that they were working, right, from opposing counsel, and now their information's been exposed. So what I can say is these data breach guys, these data breach lawyers are getting very good at running these cases through the courts and winning.
Yeah, and I have a question about the Chimiente and Associates breach. So I wonder, it doesn't say in the article, but did the criminals ask for some kind of extortion / ransom to get the data back? I mean, because 600,000 records on the dark web is not as much as they could get with a ransom.
So the data, there's no. So here's what I want you to understand. Like, and maybe you're missing it, but there was no data stolen. It was just accessed. There's proof that somebody accessed it from somewhere else. So they noticed unusual activity on their network, whatever that means, and they investigated it. And somebody came in and said, yeah, somebody's in your network.
Right. But they should have been able to just go and look in the logs. You can tell when somebody's in, and you can go and look in the logs and see if they did anything.
Right.
And very often.
I mean, in this case, we can suppose all day, but they were in there for 4 days. They probably started creating rules, or an email showed up in the drafts folder, and this person's like, I didn't write this email. I didn't create this email. Something goofy was happening in the person's email that, set them off, and they saw something, and they obviously went to somebody and said, hey, this just happened in my email. And when they looked into it, they figured out that somebody was in their email, and they had probably somebody then go into wherever their email's hosted, probably M365, and go through the logs and figure out what was accessed and when. And
well, we always talk about 180 days that they're in the system, and a breach versus a compromise. So in a way, they were window shopping, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and if you don't know that this stuff is going on, like if you don't know somebody's in your email, that's a huge disadvantage for your business. Like businesses today, if you're going to be hosting business email compromise is the number one threat to businesses. So if you're not monitoring for that, and you don't have a way to deal with when somebody gets into your email, you're in a lot of trouble. And I talk to businesses all the time who have no clue that you should be monitoring your email logins. And that's something that basically all businesses need to be doing at this point in time, in my opinion. There's no reason why you shouldn't be monitoring who's logging into every single mailbox that your company has.
Yes.
All right. So very good. So we'll continue this discussion for sure, because this isn't the last we're going to talk about these non-ransomware data breaches that are costing companies money. And again, it's not criminals that you're paying that's causing you to lose money. It's going to be the PR that you're going to have to defend, the lawsuits that you're going to have to defend, and then ultimately there's going to be a judgment that you're going to have to pay out. And this is how some of these data breaches are going to impact companies and put companies out of business. We just saw it with Lehigh Valley Health. I mean, all those pictures of their patients naked on the dark web cost them $65 million in a lawsuit settlement. So, I mean, it's just the numbers are just going to get higher, bigger, more frequent, because we're just starting to see these non-ransomware events cause problems for businesses. Again, like I said, you used to be able to just pick up from this and move along like nothing ever happened. Not anymore. Those days are coming to an end. And if you lie about it or don't disclose it, the penalties and fines are even bigger. So, go ahead and play Russian roulette with this stuff and find out what happens. All right, let's go on to segment number 2, or these recent cyber incidents, guys. Landmark Insurance. Landmark. They're an insurance administrator who had 800,000 individuals affected by a recent data breach. Names, addresses, dates of birth, social security numbers. And this was a data breach that occurred on August 23rd, 2024. Who wants to fill everybody in on the details of what happened in this breach? Anyone?
I don't have that one.
I can read the article.
Oh, so I'll give it to you. So approximately 806,519 individuals were affected by the data breach. It affected information provided by Liberty's Banker Insurance Group. And the Landmark admin is the administrative group that handles this information for this insurance company, located in Brownwood, Texas. And they're a third-party administrative solution for life insurance and annuity companies. They employ 32 people and generate about $7 million a year in revenue. And they begun sending out data breach notification letters to affected individuals. And like I mentioned in the last segment, this company is now facing potential legal and regulatory scrutiny due to the sensitive nature of the compromised data. So individuals who did business, when you receive these letters, you have an increased risk of identity theft and fraud, potential use of your personally identifiable information or your health information, and reputational damages will definitely happen to Landmark Admin LLC, and a lot of other third-party companies. If they do other similar work for other insurance companies, you can bet your bottom dollar that these insurance companies are going to be, revisiting their relationship with this company. Looks like it started around May when suspicious activity was noticed in Landmark's system, May of this year. They confirmed the unauthorized third party had attempted to access the network. Landmark made its first report about the cybersecurity incident in June to the Maine Attorney General's office. And the unauthorized third party regained access to Landmark's IT network on June 17th, resulting in another incident of unauthorized access to confidential information. Ouch. So they had 2 breaches in the span of 6 months.
It also says that they were able to encrypt and exfiltrate. So wow. They definitely got the data off.
That was the first time.
As well, yeah.
Yeah. Andre, thoughts on this?
Oh, just continued bad news, man.
And this is kind of in my neck of the woods. Brownwood, it's like 35 miles from my family's place out there in the country. So this one's kind of hits home, man. Yeah.
All right, so it's just another example of a cyber attack, cyber breach for a very large company that handles a lot of sensitive data, and another kind of, this is where businesses are at today, unable to defend initial ransomware attacks and then getting hacked again when they think they have their head above water a little bit. We see this on a regular basis. We try to warn people, like, you got to do this stuff the right way. Not only do you got to protect the right way so you don't have an event in the first place, but when you recover, you also have to do it the right way, because what do we see in the recovery process? Rehacks, companies getting breached again, because it wasn't done the right way. And unfortunately, we see a lot of IT people out there and a lot of IT companies peddling that they can do certain things. But at the end of the day, when the 3 of us look at it, we know it's just maybe one little piece of the pie or one little slither of what needs to be done versus, a full-blown framework or full cybersecurity program. So let's get into this Black Basta one, guys. Andre, how much time you have?
About 5 minutes.
All right. So Black Basta, this is an interesting one. They're posing as IT support on Microsoft Teams. These sneaky devils, these Black Basta guys, are now impersonating IT support personnel on Microsoft Teams to gain trust and access to targeted networks. The tactic leverages social engineering techniques to exploit legitimate collaboration tools for malicious purposes. So the group carefully selects and recruits affiliates with proven success in ransomware attacks or malware development, and the selective process has helped them in their rapid success and effectiveness in these types of attacks. So they don't use anybody. They kind of have identified people who they know can pull off these types of attacks, get inside the networks, so they can then deploy their ransomware, which is very, very effective. Initial access methods include phishing emails with malicious links and attachments, exploitation of those vulnerabilities of public-facing applications, and purchasing from people who already have access to a network, where then they go and target the Teams application. Any other thing that I didn't cover there that you guys are seeing with around this type of attack, and what specifically are they doing inside of Teams that's different?
Yeah, definitely different, because they're moving away or transitioning away from your typical email and phone social engineering to using Microsoft Teams. Because I would say, you're always kind of out on the lookout when you get a text message on your phone or your email. But if you get like a Teams message, you're a little more relaxed in Teams, because usually it's people that you know and you're conversating with. So the fact that appears that they first spam you with emails, and then from there they send out a Teams message to you claiming their IT support using the on Microsoft email support admin, for example, on Microsoft message. It now makes it seem a little more legitimate. And we're also seeing that they're using QR codes. So they may say, use this QR code so that we can identify you, or so that we can connect, or whatever the case is. And a lot of the tools that IT providers are using doesn't necessarily scan properly for QR-based phishing or any type of malware installation. So they're very this is really something that is new in that aspect, and I would even say people aren't even getting trained on. And I'll admit it. I did a training last week for one of our clients, and I did not mention Microsoft Teams phishing. Now I have to add that.
And once again, it's not the most ingenious high-tech thing that's ever been done, right? They're just posing, and then they go by the fact that most people have their Teams opened up to the whole world, and they just start spamming until they can get in. They might even be reaching out to find if you can access an organization even maybe before they send all the spam. But the good news is that they're using, definitive Microsoft 365 tenants. So, I mean, Microsoft ought to be able to block for some of these, although, they can just continue to make up new ones, right? The best thing to do is just do, it's called Zero Trust, and you just set up your Teams to only allow messages from people that you allow messages from. And it's not foolproof, but it'll cut out a lot of this riffraff, because they wouldn't be able to message you if you had your team set to that. So it's pretty easy to do. So that's what I would suggest.
Very cool. So at the end of the day, you need to allow somebody from the outside in. And as Randy said, there are very proven methods for not allowing that kind of stuff, right? And that's the challenge as cyber defenders that we face, discussing these integrations, these new tools, the new way of doing business and communicating with tools like Teams, and making people aware of the compliance and cybersecurity risks that come along with using these tools, and understanding how to use them the right way. Because, we're big on compliance here at Exact, and a lot of compliance issues are raised when employees do things inside of Teams, and what they share and how they share it. And you have to be aware of the different things that can happen when you say remove an employee's account because they've been let go, And what happens to all their data that's been put in Teams? Well, if they didn't put that in certain places, that data can be deleted. And that could potentially cause a major problem for your compliance down the road. So you can't just roll these things out and use them however you want. You really do. Guys, you agree for M365 in a real business, you need to have somebody who knows what they're doing running that thing.
Yep.
You do.
They make it so easy that it looks plug and play, but it's,
it's really not. Yeah, it's really not. There's so much behind the scenes going on with M365 that could lead you to get hacked really easily if you don't configure it and set it up the right way. Or not get the answers to if somebody's accessing your data, if you don't set it up the right way. All right, let's quickly blow through our final segment, which is following up, guys. We have 3 quick topics I want to touch on: the Henry Schein data breach disclosure, the UnitedHealth Care data breach update, and the Columbus City cyber attack and what's going on there. Quickly, Henry Schein, took them a year to figure this out. It's raising some eyebrows and some questions. You guys can kind of dive into what those are. But they had an attack in October of 2023 by Black Cat, which stole 35 terabytes of information. They have come out and basically reported this breach. It's been 166,000 plus individuals had their personal information stolen. And of course, they're offering affected users a free 24-month membership to Experian's Identity Work SM, which is a identity protection product that Experian offers as a result of all these data breaches. And the company worked with an outside expert firm to review the affected files, which took a substantial amount of time and resources during the first half of 2024 to produce the report that they filed the other day. Anything else you guys want to add on this that you find interesting?
we always see outside expert firm. I think I'm going to buy that domain.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then also it just constantly this thing of, we found out about the breach, but it's not fully getting disclosed unless they're kind of required by law. So, I don't know what that means or doesn't mean, but it is a thing.
So UnitedHealthcare, there's no specific information provided about specifically how this is impacting UnitedHealthcare, but they did file a follow-up to their breach and basically said that we've had 200 million people whose private health information has been exposed as a result of our cyber attack. That's a lot of people, guys.
Yeah.
It's like 1 in 3 Americans or 1 in 3 point something Americans.
How many Americans are there now?
Well, there's 300 million plus. So
it's
Documented.
It's 2 out of
throwing around.
2 out of 3. Must be that Texas math.
Yeah. Well, they're literally throwing around at the congressional hearing. Maybe a third of all Americans' health data was exposed in the attack. So it's a big one. Not near as big as what was it, 2.9 billion or something like that in another recent attack, but still, this is a lot.
It is. It's quite so. And then, that's it. So this is just going to have potential long-term consequences for all these people, plus more lawsuits. This is when the lawsuit starts, when they file these things. So it's interesting that they're taking longer to file these things because I think they know that's when the lawsuits start coming.
Yeah. But they are going to get through it, though. Right?
Sure. Yeah, they got tons of money. Mm-hmm. Columbus cyber attack, guys. Final topic of the day. Let's touch base on this. Mayor has a goal to fix the systems by Halloween. Basically saying it's not going to be met. It's 2 days away. Ongoing challenges in restoring city services, implications for local government operations and citizen trust. This has been a debacle since the start. I've called that out since the beginning. I said, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He needs better advisors. I've said all those things on this channel many times. And here we go again. The guy learning on the job, learning that you're not going to get up as fast as you think, right? And we say this all the time on this channel. And here this guy's like, oh, I'm going to pick a date out of the air. I'm going to pick Halloween.
Right.
And I'm going to say, we're going to be back up and running by Halloween. Okay, great. It doesn't work that way. Right. And here we are with, 2 days remaining, and they're basically saying there's no way we're getting this city back up and running by then. And this attack occurred, what, June, was it? I don't even remember when it was.
It was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Trying to
So
find
saying
out.
74% of their systems have
July 18th. So it's July 18th. That was close. I thought it was June. It was July 18th. So July 18th, it was the ransomware attack. Rysider was the ransomware group, and they wanted $2 million. So interesting. So ransomware recovery is a lot. It takes a lot more than what most people think. And this guy and this mayor and what this city has gone through. Again, I probably said it before, but it takes the cake in terms of what not to do when you have a ransomware attack. Just look at what this mayor did and do the opposite, because he's made every misstep you could possibly make. And it's not a private company. This guy's out there in the public every day.
Right.
I don't know how he's surviving. I don't know how he's still mayor. I don't know how the people of the city of Columbus are not this. Look, I know he's not a cyber expert, but he's in charge, right? This is no different than any CEO's company who gets hacked. You at some point, the victim shroud that you're behind wears off, and you're no longer looked as a victim, and you're looked at as part of the problem.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, so to make matters worse, when the government said, when the city government said, "Oh, it's not that bad," a local guy did some digging around and said, "Yeah, it is that bad. All this stuff's on the internet." So the city, instead of
here, let me show you, which a lot of people do. Go ahead.
And the city, instead of going, "Oh gosh, thanks for bringing that to our attention. We're living and learning here and being humble about it," instead of doing that, they rolled out a lawsuit against the guy. Yep. And I think that was the beginning of really where it all fell apart, because you can't treat this like you're normal, just throwing your weight around stuff. You got to be humble about this. You got to be transparent about this, and you have to be teachable, and you got to go with the recommendations of the experts. So I think that was the beginning of the end right there.
And I'm going to give a mic drop here as we end the show.
You do it, Andre. That's the beginning of the end of the show right there. So
all right.
Appreciate everybody's input.
Oh, no. I didn't do my mic drop.
Come on, hit it.
All right. So city, they had, whenever you're now kicking the can on the date, that means you're now going to go over budget, right? Because you thought everything would be done by the 31st, go back. Right. So now they had allocated $7 million for immediate response. So now that's going to be more, since you're going to have your employees working longer. And now the mayor indicated that the city spent $12 million on cybersecurity over the past 5 years. So in 5 years, they spent a total of $12 million. And in a couple of months, they spent $7 million.
So I don't know when we'll do this, but I want to, either I'm going to do this on my YouTube channel, or we're going to work and put some time, do some homework and put some time in to build a show around this. But it came up last week at the conference that the gap between where cybersecurity spend should be, which is known as the total addressable market, and what businesses are actually spending on cybersecurity, and the gap, it'll blow your mind if you look at the numbers. It backs up everything that I say on this show when I say businesses don't spend enough money on cybersecurity. Well, this data backs up everything that I'm saying. So we need to dive into this, because what you just said there is spot on, and we need to pull the rug back on this and show people that, like, hey, this is what the market thinks businesses should be spending on cybersecurity right now. It's in the trillions of dollars, and we're only spending a couple $100 billion. that's where we're at today, and that's why we're losing this battle.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about it. We'll get some facts, figures, and information. We'll bring it to you in a future show, possibly next week. I don't know, but stay tuned. Thanks for your support. Share the show, and we'll see everyone next week.